Hey everyone, so nothing new today, we're just going to keep working on our solving quadratics using all methods. So pause the video and do the do now. Notice this is, what is happening? My computer's being weird. By factoring, sorry. Alright, so the first one, there's only two terms here, right? So that's a GCF. The GCF is 2x. So when I factor out 2x, I get 11x plus 5. We set each of these equal to 0. So 2x equals 0, 11x plus 5 equals 0. Divide by 2, and we get x equals 0. Subtract 5 on both sides. 11x equals negative 5. Divide by 11. So those are my two answers. So factor GCF. All right, and then number 2, notice this one doesn't have a 0 on one side, so we need to make that happen. I'm going to subtract 5x and add 6. Now I do that because I want to keep my x squared positive. If we have x squared negative, we'll have to divide out. So it's an extra step anyways. Once I get 0 on one side, I can factor. This is just a basic MC chart. We are multiplying to 6, combining to negative 5. Careful, a lot of kids still make silly mistakes with this one. They want to say it's 1 and negative 6. It's not. We need the same sign. So negative 2, negative 3 gives me negative 5. X minus 2, x minus 3 equals 0. Set both of our factors equal to 0 and solve. So x is 3 and x is 2. That's it. All right, so remember quadratic formula. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. I really do assume that by now, if you've been doing all your homework and everything, you probably have it memorized. Not so scary, right? Okay, so we have learned 3 methods to solve quadratics. We've factored. We've used square roots. And we've used the quadratic formula. So what I want you to do is go through and just label which method do you think would be best for each of these. Now, there isn't necessarily a wrong answer. There are some wrong answers, but there are multiple answers for some of these. It really depends on your thoughts on it. So number 1, there's really no question. This is a square root. That's a square root problem. Because we only have one x in the problem, we see we have our parentheses squared. So we're going to add the 8, take the square root of both sides. Number 2, this is a factoring problem. You can use the quadratic formula, but I would definitely factor if I can, especially there's nothing in front of x squared. This is just, it's a very straightforward, what multiplies to negative 16 combines to negative 6. So that one I would definitely factor. 3, on the other hand, is quadratic formula. Now, is it factorable? It might be. I don't know. But those numbers look gross, so I probably wouldn't even bother. And I'm pretty sure it's not factorable. And then number 4, this one basically you could do all 3. I would take the square root personally. You could do square root, you could factor. I wouldn't use the quadratic formula because b is 0 and kids tend to make silly mistakes there. But you can pretty much use the quadratic formula anytime except when you see it like number 1. You would have to do a bunch of math out to do number 1 using quadratic formula. Okay. So using square roots. So I want you to go through and do these 3. This is review. This was on that quiz we took. All right, so square roots. I noticed that I have that 10x on both sides. So I'm going to take that out. So I have 11x squared equals 44. What can I do there? I can divide by 11. So I get x squared equals 4. If x squared equals 4, I just take the square root of both sides. X equals plus or minus 2. Done. Number 6. Again, if you haven't paused, pause and do these. Number 6, we have that number in front of our parentheses, so we're going to divide by it. So I get x plus 9 squared equals 10. My parentheses squared is by itself, so we take the square root of both sides, and I get x plus 9 equals root 10. But what do I put in front of the root 10? Plus or minus. And then the last step to get x by itself, we're going to subtract 9 on both sides. So x is negative 9 plus or minus root 10. Done. So that is my answer. All right. And then number 7. We need, just like number 6, we isolated our parentheses squared. So we need to isolate our parentheses squared here. So we have two numbers outside the parentheses. We have our 5 and our 11. Which one do we do first? Whenever we solve, we add, subtract first. 5x minus 7 squared equals 120. Then we get rid of that 5 by dividing. X minus 7 squared equals 24. Now that our parentheses squared is alone, we can take the square root of both sides. X minus 7 equals plus or minus root 24. I'm going to add 7 to get the x by itself. So x equals 7 plus or minus. Now I'm going to stop now because root 24 can simplify. What perfect square goes into 24? 4. So it's 4 and 6. Square root of 4 is 2. The square root of 6 is just root 6. Okay. So that's our review of solving using square roots. All right, so now we did the do now was our practice with factoring. So now go through quadratic formula. Again, pause the video, go do all the things. So x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now in this case, our a is 2, b is negative 29, and c is 50. All right, so negative b, negative 29, be careful there. Negative 29 a c over 2a. All right, so we get negative 29 is just 29. 2 times 2 is 4. All right, so now we're going to put that exactly the way we see it in our calculator. Parentheses, negative 29. Be careful there. I got 441, right? Make sure you put that parentheses around the negative 29. Remember, the calculator doesn't square the negative if you don't do that. Now, what perfect square goes into 441? That is actually a perfect square. We get 29 plus or minus 21 all over 4. If you see a weird number, if it is bigger than like your typical, greater than like 225, I would check it, right? So that one does work. So our answers end up being, so we get x equals 29 plus 21 over 4 and 29 minus 21 over 4. So what's that? 50 over 4. So 25 over 2. And here we get 8 over 4, which is 2. And those are our two answers. All right. Again, pause the video and try it on your own. So I'm going to add x squared to both sides so that I can get my 0. And I like it when my x squared is positive. So x squared plus 6x plus 20. A is 1, nothing in front of x squared. B is 6, C is 20. Negative b, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Alright, so b, b, a, c, 2a. Negative 6 plus or minus square root all over 2. Let's see what we get there. 6 squared minus 4 times 1 times 20 gives us a negative 44. All right, so we do have more work to do though, because what can we do to 44? 44 we can simplify. What perfect square goes into 44? 4. It's 4 times negative 11. Square root of 4 is 2, so 2 root negative 11. So this becomes negative 6 plus or minus 2 root negative 11 all over 2. And then finally, we're going to divide. 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. 2 divided by 2 is 1. And then what do we have to write when we have a negative under the square root? No real solutions. Because under the square root, you can't have a negative under the square root, right? There's no number times itself that's a negative. A negative times a negative is a positive. All right, last one. Try it on your own. All right, so like before, we need a 0. So I'm going to subtract 2x squared. I'm going to subtract 4x. And I'm going to add 5. So we get x squared minus 15x plus 9. All right. Quadratic formula. A is 1. B is negative 15. C is 9. Negative b plus or minus. I know you're probably tired of hearing me sing. 4ac all over 2a. Negative 15, negative 15, a, c, a. Negative 15 is 15 all over 2. All right, so we get negative 15 squared minus 4 times 1 times 9 is 189. Does that simplify? I think it does. You can divide that by 3. Ooh, 9. 189 divided by 9. Well, yeah, 8, because 9 goes into 18 and 9. So that's 9 times 21. Square root of 9 is 3. So we get x equals 15 plus or minus 3 root 21 all over 2. Now, can I simplify that? We can't do that because 15 is even and 3 is even. So we're just going to leave it like that and we're done. All right, practice. We are, again, it's going to be 3 sections. Solve using square roots, solve by factoring, and solve using quadratic formula. Have a fabulous day.